Good afternoon, Spartans. Happy Monday. We're here for another Alma Mater Monday, episode 5 with Dr. Mitra. I said that correctly, right? I don't want to butcher
that's
your name.
right.
What? Dr. Mitra, would introduce us yourself. Tell us, first of all, when did you graduate from Southeast so we can get a time frame here?
Yeah, it was in 1988.
1988. All right. Now, so I'm going to let you then kind of give a little background. What are you doing now? What were your steps following Southeast High School? And just kind of roll with it there.
Yeah, sure. So after I graduated from Southeast, I went to MIT in Boston, and I got my bachelor's degree there in electrical engineering, actually. And then I went on and got my PhD also from MIT. And also it was actually in electrical engineering, even though now I am a professor of genetics at Washington University. So now, there's sort of a lot of overlap in the fields. And so, I took a lot of the quantitative skills that I learned in electrical engineering, and now I'm applying them to genetics. And so what we do now is we're basically, I'm focused on research. So understanding sort of basic scientific questions. And what I'm really interested in understanding is the biophysical principles of how cells turn on and off their genes.
Okay, man, that's a lot there. That's awesome. What, so you left Southeast High School and you went to MIT.
Yeah.
Now, did you roll right after your undergrad into your post grad? Did you go right into that and stay out there in Boston, or?
Yeah, I did. With MIT, you can do there's a 5-year program where you can do a master's, and so you work at a company. And
Okay.
so I worked, so it's still like technically part of the school, but you're working at a company. So I worked in Canton, Ohio for the Timken company. So I feel like I got a taste of, like non-academic life. And
Yeah.
then I kind of went back to kind of classes and then the lab and then that whole 9 yards.
So then how long have you been at WashU?
Let's see. So it's been now about 18 years. So
Nice.
It's been a while.
Yeah. Do you ever get a chance now? I mean, St. Louis, WashU. So do you get a chance to come back to Springfield often?
Oh yeah. My brother is still there. So I have 2 brothers and a sister. And so one brother and sister in Chicago, and then another brother is in Springfield, and then my mom is still in Springfield. So I come back there all the time.
Awesome. Now, how much has changed? Do you still remember all the way around town, or?
I always navigate by like landmarks instead of like road names, so it's actually, it's getting more and more challenging because a lot of the landmarks are completely gone now, and so,
yeah.
But it's not too bad because I do come back, often enough where I still am like, okay, yeah, I know where this is and I know where that is.
So what's your favorite restaurant then when you come back?
Well, my favorite restaurant was the Den, the Den Chili Parlor, but I think that just closed like 2 years ago. So that was my favorite. I'm trying to think. I like Obed's. Is it Obed and Isaac's? That place is really good. So I've been there, and that was excellent. And I still love Luca's Pizza. Like Luca's Pizza is another classic that I love. And Galena's Pizza is another one. I haven't been to Galena's as often. Luca's is kind of closer to my mom's house, but Galena's we used to go to all the time when I was in high school. That was like our lunch, like off campus.
Okay, so we're going to get into that. That's some of the things. So are you ready to take the trip down memory lane?
Yeah, sure.
Back in your high school days?
Yeah, sure.
All right, so kind of the first thing we always start off with. Do you remember who your principal was?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, Gary Sullivan.
Okay, so yeah, Mr. Sullivan. What about?
Yeah, actually, his that's a little unfair because his son is Pat Sullivan. So I was basically best friends with Pat Sullivan, who was Gary's son. And so I just saw Gary maybe 6 months ago. And so I still stay in touch with Pat. Like he's in St. Louis too, so I still stay in touch with him. I see him quite a bit. So
awesome. What about your guidance dean? Do you remember who your guidance dean was?
Ooh, gosh, I should know this one. I don't offhand, but I know. I mean, I can picture him. He had a gray hair, and I don't know offhand though. I know who he is, but if you say the name, do you know his name?
I don't know. This is just
maybe you looked it up.
So, because our kids, we roll through. I'm sure you guys did the same way. You kind of roll through with that same guidance team, right? So we
Yeah,
did
yeah, yeah.
and played off of that. But now, question: was the gym hardwood or carpet?
No, it's carpet.
Okay, that's been a crazy thing.
The only carpeted gym I've seen ever, still to this day.
I can't even fathom that. As a
Yeah,
guy who coaches sports, has been around, I can't fathom
it was pretty crazy.
And I mean, in 1988, it wasn't that long ago. Like that's not like it's that out of the, like it's weird. It's just crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So getting back, you've already kind of alluded to it. You guys had open campus lunch, right?
Yeah,
Where was your favorite place to go eat?
Galena's for sure.
Galena's. Now, did they have a buffet, or did you just get pizza by the
No,
slice?
no, just by the slice.
All right. What's
Actually,
your
the guys there, I don't know if there's. I haven't been back to Galena's in a while. Like I said, I've been going to Lucas, but the guys there used to play soccer, like on Wednesday nights. So they played soccer with me and my dad sometimes too. So they were great. I love Galena's.
Yeah, they're Galenas are great people. When we do things downtown for we always football, just with football doing with the Susan G. Komen race, we always go to Galena's Pizza to spend some. They open up the back room for us and just bring us
They're
all
great
types of
guys.
pizza
They
and
really
soda,
are.
right? Yeah, it's kind of I think the kids really look forward to it, and I think I look forward to it because we get away, you get the kids on their own. We didn't actually get to do it this year with the COVID shutdown.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we're hoping next year we can do it. But what's your favorite pizza then?
What do you mean, like
What was your go-to slice? Like if you had it, is it?
Oh man, any kind of pizza I love.
Okay.
I do like Supremes, but for Galena, I'd often just do cheese because it's it was like hot and ready to go. So
Yep. Didn't have to wait, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Where did you go to study while you were at Southeast High School? Did you have any particular area that you'd go, or outside the building, inside the building, anything?
Not really. I had study hall in the cafeteria, where I did a lot. Like I got a lot of my work done there.
Yeah.
And then I had a great. I don't know. I mean, this is probably nobody probably knows this, but I had a great teacher, Mr. Kais, and he was unbelievably great teacher. He was hilarious. Like everybody from my kind of generation has Mr. Kais stories, and he used to sometimes just he'd give out like hall passes. If you were caught up in his class, he'd just let you go wherever you wanted. So
yeah,
he would give a hall pass, and I would just go to the cafeteria sometimes and study. But the hall pass was just a picture of him, and it said "It's my fault" on it, and he would just give it out to students whenever they wanted to go. It was great. He was fantastic.
That's awesome. There's been doing these segments, there's been a lot of people that have talked very highly of Mr. Kais, and I'm relatively new. I've been here 7 years, so unfortunately I didn't get to know him at the level that you did. But everything I've heard is he was a freaking great man, and
he was a legend. He was a legend, man. I mean, I've been in academics now. Like after I graduated from Southeast, I was in school for the next 10 years. And I had all kinds of teachers, some of them won Nobel Prizes. There's nobody like Mr. Kais. There's nobody like Mr. Kais.
That's awesome. He had a major impact on you. I mean, obviously we could tell just how you light up and about him. And, that's something that education, and you're still in education, you realize the impact that you can have on young men and women. And it is an awesome thing. Do you have a great Mr. Kais story that you'd like to share with us that maybe will jog some of your friends and everything?
Well, I mean, I told the Kais hall pass story, where he just would have a picture of himself and be like, "It's my fault." But he was just, like the thing I remember the most about Kais is that he would, he had this story where he would just talk about it. First of all, he's just hilarious. Like he was just a character. Like he would get up and he would just talk, and he was completely laid back about, like the students. So he wasn't, in his book, everybody was doing great, and he was very positive on all the students. But he would just get up and talk, and he would talk about his life and very personal stories. And the story that kind of I remember the most was he, this was like right around World War II when he was in high school, and he had just gotten dumped by his girlfriend. So he had gone out with this girl for like 3.5 years, and it was time for senior prom. And she dumped him because to go to prom with some other guy, because this other guy had just gotten a new car. And so so he was devastated, and he tells the story, and it's like all the drama. And then he basically talks about a friend of his wife. So a friend of his, like an older friend, he went to to World War II. And so his wife said, well, I'll go to prom with you, you know? And so then they went to prom together, and she made sure to you know, like to figure out where the girlfriend was, and they danced real close. But it's just, you know, like the whole story, like I can't really do it justice because the whole story, it's like a 40-minute story that took one whole class. That's what we did for one whole class, you know? But it's just like, it was just epic because first of all, it's just a great story. But secondly, like you got to know, you know, you got to know him as a person, but you also got to learn like life lessons through him because, you know, at the time he was probably, I don't know, he was probably mid 60s, you know, at the time when he was teaching the class. And so he had a ton of life experiences. And he shared them readily, you know, and with a, you know, great amount of humor. And so it gave you perspective on like how to, when similar things came up in your life, you know, it's like, well, what would Kai's do, you know? And so then you were kind of, so that, I think that was just incredibly useful.
That's what, you know, I say, it's kind of that, you know, that realize that teachers are humans too. And we have a lot of these things. And I know that when I reach out, as I've taken these steps and have gone on in education, you like look back and man, my teachers that would do these things, I realize why now you're doing it. They're trying to inform the knowledge and everything. And it was awesome.
Yeah.
So what extracurricular activities were you involved with, whether it be clubs or sports?
Yeah, I did a few different things. I mean, I think the sport that probably had the biggest impact on me is I wrestled. And so that was a fantastic experience. And that was another, you know, I think definitely had a big influence on the way I approach problems, you know, sort of after school. I also was I was in like Brain Trust. I think I was in like maybe German club. There were probably some other things, but those are the things that I remember.
Okay. Well, is there anything that you wish you were involved in that you like looking back on it now, you're like, man, I wish I would have gotten involved in that extracurricular or anything with school?
Yeah, you know, I think, I mean, to be honest, like wrestling's a fantastic sport. It's just, it's a spectacularly great sport, but it is an individual sport.
Yeah.
And I did play soccer my freshman year, but I guess I wish I had played a team sport, maybe at a higher level, you know, for a longer amount of time. Cause I think there's a lot to be learned from, you know, like in life as you go on and you know, you go into organizations and you go into, I think you can learn a lot from a team sport. And I think that, you know, maybe that's a gap in my education. Cause I mean, I learned a ton from wrestling, but I think that there are some interactions that perhaps I didn't get, and it would have been good to play a team sport at a high level.
Yeah, working together, right? You know,
Yeah, exactly.
goal. I think I had a college football coach that used to always say it the best that one hand grenade blows up the entire unit, right? And I kind of still take that old school mentality with thinking like, hey, we've all got to work together because if one of us messes up, it's going to affect all of us. And you know, and you get into your professional careers, you're working with people from all different walks of life, and that's really something that has taught us. And even, you know, wrestling, there's still some of that team aspect and things, but hey, wrestling's one of those sports, man. It's you versus it's mano a mano, and you're on the mat and like the lights are shining on you. That's a big deal. I mean, I never wrestled. I you know, had a lot of friends that did it. I played basketball, but some of the coolest sporting events I can remember in high school were going to watch the wrestling matches. Cause I mean, when you get two good wrestlers going at it, there's nothing better. It's fun to watch.
Yeah, it's just a great sport for I think that teaches you skills that carry on, you know, sort of beyond life.
Yeah.
And we had a really good coach. Coach Gardner was fantastic. And so, you know, I think that was great. But yeah, so it was fantastic.
All right. So what was your high school job? Did you have a job during high school?
Yeah, I had a couple jobs. So I worked at the medical school when I was a junior. I think when I was a sophomore and a junior, maybe freshman, sophomore, junior. And so that was great. I learned a lot there. But I think when I was a senior, I delivered pizzas actually for my senior year for Little Caesars, and that was great. That was a lot of fun, and yeah, that was a lot of fun.
That I'm sure you met a lot of interesting people and did, you know, just had some interesting conversations with that because
it was just all around a fantastic experience. We had a lot of fun, and yeah, we had some pretty, I mean, we met some different people. We went to some, you know, there were some kind of unsafe neighborhoods on our route, and we had some pretty funny experiences there too. So it was pretty crazy, but it was fun.
Where was the weekend hangout for Southeast students when you were, you know, walking the halls?
Yeah. Well, when I was pretty young, like when I was like a sophomore, actually the drive-in was a pretty big spot. So people would go to the drive-in a lot and then hang out there. Um,
Isn't it funny when we look back at like our high school days of like where we used to just find a place to hang out with our friends and go to? Like
yep,
I've told this story numerous times. If people have turned into Alma Mater Mondays, we would hang out in an AutoZone parking lot. It was kind of
yeah,
like in the square in town. It was right there. It was like a central location. So it's like you look back like, man, we hung out at some dumb, like weird places.
yeah. We hung out at the park, like the very like the parks around the lake, like a reasonable amount too. And then yeah, I'd say like the parks around the lake, but the drive-in was a pretty big hangout for a while.
All right. What do you think? Like, kind of going in here. What's one thing that you hope has not changed with Southeast High School?
Um, I don't, one thing I always liked about at least the way I remember it anyway at Southeast was like, it wasn't super clicky. And there wasn't really like a really locked in social hierarchy, it was
Yeah.
I mean, everybody pretty much got along with everybody. And it wasn't like there was this group and then they were at the top of the food chain and this, that. And I kind of, like in my kids' high school, like, I don't know, I see more of that. And it's kind of like, yeah, I don't really remember it being like that. And I guess I hope it's still the way
Yeah,
the way I
definitely.
remember it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. We have these conversations all the time about like, that at Southeast, it's like everybody looks out for everybody. There's really,
Yeah, exactly.
you can find out you have your own niche of friends, but there's no real like, you know, putting down. It's just everybody kind of goes about their own business. And it's a cool thing. That is something that I love about the culture at Southeast, that how different we are. And then, that there's a bunch of different people that come into one building and then we all get along, we have a great time. What would you say then would be one thing that you hope has changed, or something that you think like, man, looking back, I wish this would have been a little bit different, or something would change now?
One thing I hope has changed. Well, I hope they don't have carpet on the gym floors anymore.
No, we don't. We got hardwood. It's pretty sweet.
Well, there you go. All set then.
Yeah, no carpet burns in PE basketball, right? Getting after it. So,
Yeah.
Dr. Mitra, what's a piece of advice you'd give to a freshman that's entering Southeast High School?
I think my advice would be to get involved in activities. I think that when I look back, a lot of what I took out of Southeast, I mean, a lot of what I took out of Southeast came from the classroom, but a lot of what I took out from Southeast came from the activities that I was involved in. And like, as I said, I would have loved to do even more. I would have loved to play a team sport at a high level and do other things. So I think that's an important thing.
That's something, with kind of working with freshmen forward, the freshman orientation piece that I always push. Get involved. I obviously, being the football coach, I want everybody to play football, but I don't care what it is. I want you to get involved and do something, because the more you're involved, the more, we don't have to worry about other things, right? You're gonna
Right.
meet people. You're gonna be around. We're gonna be able to track your grades and keep it up, and just get involved. So,
Right.
hey, you and we're thinking alike. I appreciate that. What's a piece of advice would you give a senior that's graduating, from Southeast?
I actually would recommend leave Illinois at some point in your life, because I think it's good to do it when you're young, because you don't have the commitment and so forth. Because I mean, I love Illinois and I love being from Illinois, and I think I wouldn't change that. Like, I think it's probably I mean, I'm biased, but I think it's probably the best place in the world to grow up. But if it's your um, the only lens which you view the world is through sort of the Illinois, kind of Midwestern, lens, I think maybe you're missing out on different viewpoints. And when I went to Boston, it was a pretty big shock in a lot of ways. I mean, just in a ton of ways. And many of them I didn't like as much as the way we did it back in Illinois. But on the flip side, like, some I did, and I took a lot from that, and I internalized that. And now I've lived in, I lived in California, I lived in Ohio, I lived in Massachusetts, I spent some time in New York, so just getting all those different experiences and meeting all those people from all the different areas was really fantastic. And I think that, so I do think it's worth kind of like I love the Midwest. Like that's what I did. I left and I came back, I came back to the Midwest to raise my family, but I do think it's good to kind of get out and see the world a bit. And it's, it is different. It is different than
definitely.
So.
Definitely. What's the most interesting place you've lived in?
Well, I love California. My kids, my eldest son is now in San Diego, and San Diego is God's country.
Oh,
I mean,
beautiful.
again, like I wouldn't want to necessarily raise a family there, but if you're young, like, man, San Diego is unbelievable. I have 2 kids. My other son is in LA. And so, they surf like now all the time, and it's it's just a lifestyle, it's like a whole different mindset, a whole different lifestyle. So California is really neat. Boston's actually really, really neat because it's especially when you're young, there's like, I don't know how many schools there are there, but there's probably like 40 or 50 schools like within a 15-mile radius, college age schools. And so it's just an incredible, like, it's just an incredibly vibrant area. And again, to be young there is just amazing.
A lot of people your age, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I agree. San Diego, if anybody takes anything, is get a chance to visit San Diego. I went out there a couple of years ago for actually like the Marine leadership training thing, and man, I tell you what a beautiful area.
It is unbelievable.
It's so beautiful. But then I looked at some of the prices on like housing, and I was like, well, good thing I'm just visiting, because this is
it's super expensive. But like as a young person, like that's okay, right? I mean, like I lived in a lot of places that I couldn't afford when I was young, and it was crazy. But like whatever, you can you just get a job, and you can have a small apartment, and it's okay, and you
figure it out, right? We just figure it out.
You figure it out. So I also like the other area was pretty cool is the Bay Area, San Francisco area, because like there's just so much like there, everything, like there's just so entrepreneurial, and all these young people are just trying to create new things, And so that's got a really cool vibe to it as well. So that's another really great place.
We talk about in education, like a growth mindset, right? And if you go there, you're going to have a growth mindset because people are challenging you to be better. And that's something
that's another phenomenal place. That's another really interesting place. And they're all, it's crazy because, like you think, California, San Diego, San Francisco, like whatever, it's completely different. Like the way people are, the mindset, it's just 100% different. The weather's great in both places, but other than that,
it's a totally different world. Like
it's completely different.
I've got my college roommate lives in LA, so I've been there to visit him, and it's like, man, you think LA and San Diego, they're not that far away on the map, but it could be like a lifetime away.
Night and day, yeah.
What kind of the last thing here? I know we've talked some memories of Southeast High School. What would be your favorite memory at Southeast?
Wow, my favorite memory. I don't know. I think I really like the people at Southeast. I mean, I still am. So I think my favorite memory is kind of just sort of the friendships, and also some of the teachers there. I think were really good. I mean, I think I remember sort of all my friends there, and again, we all got along really well, and we stayed in touch. And I think was really important to my sort of development. And then I think I had some great teachers. I already talked about Kai's. Kai's is fantastic. But then, Mr. Gardner was my wrestling coach. He was a big influence. And then Mr. Garrison was one of my favorite teachers too. He was a math and computer science teacher. And, for what I ended up doing, like the stuff that I learned from him ended up being really important. So I think probably, like, I don't know that there was some funny stuff that happened that maybe I won't.
More of the relationships though, right? Just being
exactly. It's more about the relationships.
And that's what sometimes we look at, we take for granted at times, but like the school's more than just the brick and mortar, right? It's the relationships that we're building with students, that students are building with one another, and so forth. So hey, Dr. Mitra, thank you very much for
my pleasure
coming on Alma Mater Monday, and
my pleasure. It was
we
fun.
look forward to talking in the future. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.